What's going on, guys? In this video, I've got my 2002 Corvette Z06 behind me, and we haven't done too much in the last few weeks because we've been spending a lot of time over here on our Challenger Hellcat project. But this thing is Procharged, but it does not make boost. I've tried flooring it a few times and I cannot seem to get any boost out of it. Me and my buddy Dennis did a boost leak on it. There's not really any boost leaks, but this belt is about 300 years old, so I wouldn't be surprised if this thing is just slipping. And it like look at that. I should not be able to squeeze that like that. So I'm wondering if maybe it's just slipping the whole time, but I'm gonna go ahead and throw a new belt on. Hopefully it's not a nightmare to change. So first things first, I'm gonna swap out the belts. We'll see how much we get tackled on this video, but I also have a wideband O2 sensor. So I've got a wideband O2 sensor and gauge from AEM that I want to get installed. That way we can see how this thing's running. I do know that somebody put a Kenny Bell booster pump on this. We found it in one of our videos when we first got the car, and I think it's running way too rich. So we'll be able to see how it actually is running once we get that gauge on there. But let me get right to it. Let me see if I can get this belt off. I got a brand new belt to try out, and we'll see how that looks. So the belt is off. I don't know if you guys can see this. This thing is a million years old. Like, that wear pattern is disgusting. I know it's grabbing on this side, but still. So I'm hoping, I'm gonna put on, it's just a cheapy belt for now, but it's gonna be a heck of a lot better. Like, this one almost feels like it stretches. I don't know, like, what is the deal with this thing, but I don't know if that's just a tensioner or what, but I don't know. Let's put the new one on. Like, you can't be any worse than this one, and we'll just keep plugging away with stuff. So let me get the new one on. All right, so new belt is on. It is tight. Still have that a little bit of that deflection, but that's actually coming out of the Procharger tensioner. So I actually, and I went through this on a Ram 1500 kit, that generation, with the Procharger kit. And I remember having to go past the tensioner marks to achieve normal boost levels. So not surprising there, but I know they do have a direct drive setup, but I've got a lot more tension on this. This belt feels a lot better, so we'll see how that does. But before we get to that testing, let's put this thing up in the air. Let's grab the AEM wideband kit. I'll show you guys that, and then we'll get the O2 sensor installed, and then we can run the wiring. Okay, so here's our AEM wideband O2 sensor. It's got the gauge and the wiring and everything in there. And then I also got this dual gauge pod because whatever setup is in here, I don't even know what is in here, but it's not even made for this car. So it just has this single gauge pod here, but you can see it's like way too big, and then they snuck this little shift light in here. So this one's actually made for a C5. It's actually used, but I mean, it's in excellent condition. I grabbed this sucker off of eBay because this was like, I think it was like $120 for this piece of plastic new. So I ended up getting this one. So let me get this all out of the box. Like I said, we'll raise it up a little bit more and kind of get things situated. All right, so this gauge fits beautifully. It's pretty cool. They're like flush mount. There's not even any, if you guys remember or done this at all, you'll know that most gauges have quite a bit of a backing on them, and I'm sure that boost gauge in there, when we go to remove that from the single pod, you'll see it sits way back. This one, like, it barely even protrudes through, so pretty cool. Anyways, that's there. I'm not sure what the clocking is gonna be once we get this on, but that took all of 10 seconds to get the gauge in there. And then we've got all of our wiring from AEM in here, a bung if we need to weld that in, and more wiring. And then the bottom here should be, yep, there we go. We've got our O2 sensor with the pigtail on it. So let's get all this in there. All right, so here we are down here, and we've got aftermarket exhaust. I don't know what the brand is, but you can see we got our cats here. Our primaries are right here. I just popped out one of the secondaries and I think my suspicion is probably pretty accurate. That is super rich. Like, normally you might want to see like a tan color or something like that on here, but like, look at that. That thing is pitch black. So anyways, I'm gonna pop in our wideband here. Some people might argue that's, you know, might be preferable before the cats, which I would probably have to agree, but we're still gonna be getting a pretty decent reading back here. We'll definitely be in the ballpark, and I think the ballpark is rich. So anyways, let me go ahead and look at that. It's even, a little thing is kind of separating off it. It's got this little heat sleeve thing that's popping off. I didn't barely even touch it. But let's go ahead, pop our wideband in there, and it looks like I can follow this factory routing through here. That's the other reason why I wanted to do that one, because I can follow these guys up here and get up to where we need to go so we can get into the vehicle. All right, so we've got our AEM sensor installed, ran the wiring down through here, kind of just bundled it up right here. There's kind of not really much room at all. I guess the factory just kind of tucks it behind this little heat shield here, but we kind of, I don't know, I don't think this is the original sensor because it's got this weird clip on it, but it just kind of runs along through here. And then what I'm gonna do is I just used a welding rod to kind of fish it up through there, and then I gotta figure out where the entry point is on this car, but I'm guessing somewhere in there. But I'm gonna run it up through here, into there, and then into the car. So let's bring this down so I can figure out how to get in there. All right, so I went ahead and just took out that little shield there. I actually, I'm new to Corvette stuff, but I heard there's these other things here that if these are clogged up, it will cause water to go in your car. And look at this. There's like leaves or something. So I don't even know how you would get that in there, but anyways, let's see what this one's got stuck in it. Anything? Well, that one's actually somewhat clean. This one's kind of half hanging open, so I think we're good there. Anyways, looks like this grommet is kind of the entry point into the car. At least we'll follow the existing stuff. So let's go ahead and see if we can get through here. Looks like it's gonna be a little bit fun, but looks like that's how we get in the car. So let me figure that out and then we'll continue. All right, so now that we got the car back on the ground, let's go ahead and take off all of this hackery, I'm gonna call it, and then we can get to the A-pillar and we'll put in our dual pod with the new AEM gauge. All right, well, got all the old junk out of the way. Popped my A-pillar off, it's just held on by 3 speed clips. Let's go ahead and fasten this to here. So it is now attached and we can run our wiring. As for the wiring, you're gonna see a ton of wires. A lot of them are for wiring in so that you can data log, but we're not gonna do data logging right now. So the only 2 we need right now is the ground and then a switched power source to get the gauge to come on. All right, so here's the current situation. We've got this thing ripped apart and we got a bunch of aftermarket wiring. Somebody wired in this, which controls the fan. Oh, I guess it only works when it's on, but anyways, this will kick on the fan, kind of like an override. But anyways, I took out a bunch of just random wiring, and what I'm going to do right now is I did drill a hole through the A-pillar cover so I can pass the wires through. So there's 2 plugs that go in the back of this AEM. One goes to the sensor and the other one goes to this wire harness. So we'll plug in those 2 on the back of here, and then I can start feeding this stuff and get my gauges clocked and yeah, just get all this kind of back here. And I'm also going to put back my boost gauge as well. We might upgrade that one. That boost gauge says it's made in China, so probably wouldn't be a bad idea to upgrade that one as well. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see without the glare, but got this in and it looks a lot more legit than before. There's so much random wiring in here, you guys. One of these days I'm gonna have to go through this stuff because it's just hectic. So I don't know what this is. This thing was just chilling here and it's got a tie wrap on it, so I don't think it's original. I'm really not sure what it is, but let's there's just a tie wrap holding it here, this little box with this little pigtail. Maybe if you guys are Corvette guys, comment down below what the heck this thing is. I don't know if it's like a skip shift eliminator or what, but this box is just chilling here. Look at, no idea what it was, but it wasn't plugged in anything. All right, so now that we've got the wideband O2 sensor installed, you guys, when I start this thing up, it is running super rich. So I can pretty much at this point see that somebody installed a booster pump on top of a tune that was probably running half decent. So when you watch this run, it should be, you know, 14, 15 to 1 when it's just idling, it is like, I think 11 or 12. Like, it is super rich. Like, that should be what you should see when you're accelerating. Oh, give it a second to heat up and then you'll see. Look at that. 12 and a half. Like, that's usually what naturally aspirated you would be at wide open throttle. Even, you know, some low boost applications. This should be closer to the middle, maybe 15 or so to 1. So with that being said, you guys, I'm gonna try to disable the booster pump. I don't know whether factory wiring was sacrificed or cut, or whether it's a plug and play situation, but I do know it's in this wheel pocket. So let's put this back up, pop this wheel off, and see if we can potentially just plug the factory system back in. That way we get hopefully some normal air fuel ratios in there instead of pig rich. All right, so wheel is off, fender liner and the brake duct is out. Here is the booster pump that I was telling you guys about. It's all up in here. Good news is, if you guys can see in here, it is a factory connector situation, so it was vehicle specific. So meaning I can unplug the booster pump and plug it directly into the pump. So if I unplug this guy here and then plug this right into my pump, we no longer have a booster pump situation in here, and we can see if we're more on target for our air fuel ratios. And if it's looking better at idle and whatnot, then we'll probably take it for a rip. I'm not gonna like remove all this just yet until we kind of see where we're at, but at least we can just run it straight the way the factory is and see what goes on. If you guys do or don't know what a boost pump is, essentially it comes in and it sits in the middle, and then there's a wire that actually runs to the front. If I show you over here, don't mind the fan, it's a little warm in here, but there's a sensor right here that references the boost, and when it sees boost, it boosts the pump. Go figure. So it gives more voltage to the pump than the 12 volts it would normally see. So that's essentially how it works. But luckily for us, hopefully I don't have to take off the shield, but it looks like I can get my hand in there, unclip that one off the fuel module, plug in the stock one. We'll just fire it up. I'm not even gonna put the wheel on. We'll see where we're at. So check it out. So we unplugged it from there. You can see, hopefully you can see, the factory harness is plugged into the module. Actually, somebody did, like I mentioned, somebody did spend some money on this. You can see here, Racetronics. So somebody spent some money on a probably Corvette or at least GM specific kit. But I mean, the wiring job they did was, you know, nice. Seeing, you know, exposed positive leads hanging out. But good thing is that's plugged in. I actually gonna go to I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. There is another fuse in the front. I don't know why this has such a massive fuse here. It's kind of a little crazy. There is a fuse at the front that comes off of this wire, so I'm gonna pull it out just so this thing's not losing its mind, so this thing doesn't have power to it, and we'll fire it up, see what happens. Okay, so here's the fuse I was mentioning to you guys. So this comes off our power and then it runs to the back, and there is a fuse right here, so we can disable this for now just so that it doesn't have power to that booster pump, just so it's not losing its mind, hopefully. Here's the sensor I was telling you guys right there, so it has a little sensor as well. I don't know, let's fire it up, see what we got. Okay, I gotta figure out this key situation. The whole jiggle key thing is making me a little mental. Alright. Probably should have let the wideband warm up first, but see how she sounds. Actually sounds a little more happy. I'm sure the computer is gonna have to adjust. Let's see. Oh, look. See if it makes its way. The fuel trims are definitely going to have to adjust to the change, I'm assuming. Yeah, let's see. She might be able to, maybe hit 13.0, we'll see. next thing to do is to go for a drive, see how she's running. It is still pretty rich, but I mean, it is cold too, so it doesn't smell nearly as bad, but well, might hit 13. Alright, well, she's running and it's definitely not lean, so I think at this point, it needs gas obviously, but I think we can probably put the wheel on and stuff and maybe go for a little rip, see how it runs. Alright guys, we're gonna go for a rip in the Corvette, see how she's running with the booster pump on. So keep an eye on our air fuel and our AEM wideband. Let's go rip. Alright, so hopefully you guys can see this, but I'm just cruising right now in 5th, and look at how rich we are running. This is with the booster pump turned off. This should be somewhere, you know, 14 and a half, maybe 15. Like, we're cruising right now at what most people would see at wide open throttle. So this thing is just running way too rich. Let's see. And I don't know if we're building any boost. I don't know if you guys can see that down there, but I'm in 5th. If I put my foot into it, really building any boosts. I might have saw 1 pound. Let's see. 0, 0, 0. Let's get the RPMs up a little bit. Saw like maybe 1 or 2 pounds there, but with the boost pump disabled, you guys. So this thing has plenty of fuel, definitely does not at this boost level need a booster pump, but we're getting low on fuel, so I'm over here at racetrack. We're gonna fill up. All right, let's get some fuel in this thing. Here we go, a little bit of 93. Our local spot, you guys, check that out. We got E85 at every single one of these pumps. So good. We just got this too. So for the Hellcat and the Hell Ram, we have E85 right here. Super, super pumped about that. But I don't know if we're gonna convert this one to E85 just yet, but right now 93 is what we're gonna run. But it looks like we're gonna have to get this thing tuned, because whatever tune is in it right now is just way off. Like, this thing's way too rich. Although I did see 2.5 pounds of boost, so and I have not taken it to redline just yet. I'm willing to bet if I take it up to redline, you know, or even 6,500, I bet you we're gonna see about 5 pounds, which is gonna be less than the 7 pounds. But since this thing has cam and headers, it's flowing a lot more, so that's why it's bringing our boost down. Because this thing has a 4.75 inch pulley, and I think most people with some of these mods usually run like a 4-inch pulley. So how accurate this fuel gauge is. The other thing too is we had to put Tektron fuel additive in it to even get a fuel gauge on it. So we just got 12.5 gallons in it, I guess, and it showed 1/4 of a tank. I don't know what size tank these things have, but I guess that sounds somewhat accurate. Maybe a 15-gallon tank in these suckers. All right, let's continue. Let's get back. It looks like we're gonna have to tune this thing, you guys. All right, so our fuel gauge, we got just over half a tank when I'm pretty sure it's full, but I don't really know either. But even still, this thing is still pig rich at idle. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of tuning, it looks like. Well, it looks like we have to add another bottle of Tektron because our fuel gauge is completely non-existent again. You can see we just filled up with a full tank and it says low fuel and it's on E, but watch, it'll flash back to like full in a second. It's really weird, these Chevys. All right, guys, well, that's pretty much it. So it is making a little bit of boost. I do think that, like I said, me and my buddy Dennis have checked, and the couplings, there's no boost leaks or anything like that. I think it's just the fact that this engine isn't stock and it is breathing better than usual, and it has an extremely large size pulley on it. So we're gonna have to pulley down in order to get some decent amount of boost levels out of it. But at the same time, it is running pig rich, even when we're just cruising, as you guys saw. And when you punch it and when it's idling, it is just silly rich right now. So we're gonna have to get this thing dialed in. I don't think at the current power levels we need the booster pump. And I would like to do a proper fuel system at some point. Not sure what we're gonna do yet. We need to get at the track, but there's so much stuff we gotta do. We've got a clutch that we're gonna be installing from Center Force. That's here. The whole torque tube has to come out. The transmission we're gonna be rebuilding because it's the first gear grind that it has. I might end up just dropping the engine out of the front K member and just resealing the engine and kind of freshening it up. And we have a full suspension kit coming for this as well. So lots of C5 Corvette mods on the way. It's gonna be a fun little project, something a little bit different, and we're gonna get this thing track ready, and then we're gonna be beating the crap out of this thing at the track. So pretty excited about all that. But I also wanna, at some point, take this thing to Redline. It looks like it's safe enough to, like it's not lean by any means, but as you can see, it's wet outside, and I'm not trying to die today, boys. I don't know, it's just wasn't in the plans for today. Hopefully you guys are liking a little bit of change in content, the Z06 stuff, but give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Check out the other videos on the channel. We'll see you guys on the next one.